Hello, and welcome to our tutorials for working with Finesse Gadget Designer. In this tutorial, we'll demonstrate how to access a REST service from Finesse Gadget Designer. In order to demonstrate this, we're going to design a table that accesses data from a third-party API, and based on the text that's entered into the text field above, filters what appears in the frame below. So, if I enter data and click Search, it accesses the data related with that particular field from the third-party API and displays the data into the data grid. In order to design this table, we go to our designer, and on our frame, we'll drag our components. First, we'll drag a group component where we're going to place a button and a text component. So resize and unlock the group component, drag a button and a text component to our group. Now, we can change the various properties of these components. First, we'll select the text input and change the component ID to search text. Remove the label from the text field, and we'll give a radius to the border. Similarly, we'll change the look and feel of this button. We'll change the component ID to search button. We don't need a label on this button, but we do need an icon, so we'll select Show Icon, and from the list of icons, I'll select the search icon. We also don't need a background, so I'll deselect Show Background. And to finish, we'll resize the component. If you want to change the look and feel of your group component, you can select the group component, go to the styles, and apply a background image. In this case, I'll apply this blue background image. Once everything is adjusted, we can lock the component. Now we can drag a data grid onto the frame, onto which we want to display the details of the search field. In order to call a third-party API, we need to first create a service. For the purpose of this demo, we've already created a service for this, which is a New York Times REST service, which accesses the URL of a New York Times API. We need to pass this service a parameter, and it returns a result object based on that parameter. This API requires an API key, which needs to be sent along with the URL as a header. In order to send as a header, we're sending an API key as the name and the value of the key as the value of the header. We'll use this service on the click of this button, so this service displays the data in our data grid. First of all, we'll unlock our group to edit our button. On the click of a button, we'll call a service, so select your button, go to Actions, and on the Search button click, we request a service. In our case, the service is a REST service, and the name of the service is New York Times REST Service, which requires a parameter. In this case, the parameter is a component data element, and we'll give the reference of the component that contains the data we're going to pass, which is the search text input. Then, click Save. The service returns a result, and when the event is fired, there has to be a component that's listening for the event to capture and display that result. This event is listened for by the data grid. So, select the data grid, go to Actions, and on the service event, it fills the data. As we see, we need to pass the filter key for the data that we want to view on our grid. And as we know, our REST service returns 3 parameters, and one of the parameters is our data. So we enter that we want to view the data parameter. Now, if we take a look at our REST service, we can see that the result returns a JSON object and a response object. So we need the response object, or data.response. From the response, we want to view the docs details, so we'll add .docs and click on Save. If we publish and refresh our document in the window, you'll see we have a text input and a search button. Once I enter any data into this field and click the search icon, it displays the result. But there are too many fields in the data and it looks cluttered, so we'll need to specify specific fields. Select the data grid, go to Properties, and from the columns, we can mention the specific fields that we want to view. Suppose I want to see the web URL, the snippet, and the source. So we'll add web URL snippet, and source, clicking Add after each. Okay, if we publish and refresh the page, now only the 3 columns that we mentioned will be visible if we enter the same value and click Search. As you can see, it's much clearer. Here's the web URL, the snippet, and the source. What we need now in our demo is once we click on a particular object, the further details of the object should display in another data grid. So go to the designer again, and from the components, drag in an additional data grid. We're going to add a label to the data grid, and we want to only view the keywords. We enter the label as Keyword Grid. Now, on a click of any particular row in this data grid, I want that data to be expanded and displayed in this data grid. So, go to Actions, and we'll fire an event on the click of this grid. Select the grid, add the click event as Fire Event, which is a manual event, the name of which we'll enter as Click Grid Event. Then click Save. As the click event is fired, the bottom data grid listens for it. Select the manual event, and on the Click Grid Event, we execute the action Fill Data. This time, the event data is only the keywords element that we want to display. Again, click Save. If we again publish and refresh the output window, we see we have 2 data grids, and once we enter any particular data and click on Search, the data related to that field is displayed. If I click on a row in the grid, the keywords information of that row is expanded and displayed in the data grid below. This is how we can work with REST services, and how we can access and display the data from a REST service in Finesse Gadget Designer. Thanks for watching.